Tonight, the province introduces stricter public health measures as it records a record number of COVID-19 cases.
As Premier, it's my duty to protect the people.
Toronto's top doctor says the new restrictions don't go far enough. Plus,
and a pandemic canceled the trip, and there's nothing. We get absolutely nothing.
the pandemic forced schools to cancel overseas trips. Months later, frustrated families are still fighting for a refund. And this Mississauga couple offered free food to the community during the pandemic, but they hit a snag when the space they were using was fenced off. Good evening, I'm Marivel Tarouk. We begin tonight with a disturbing discovery at an East End construction site. And a warning, the image you're about to see is upsetting. A worker discovered this graffiti in a washroom stall at a construction site at Michael Garron Hospital. It reads, "This site needs an N-word purge." In an email statement to CBC, the construction company Ellis Dawn calls it a despicable racist act and says an investigation is underway. The statement continues, "Upon learning of this incident, we immediately boarded up the area and removed the graffiti. We have already begun to upgrade the security and surveillance on the site, both to catch these criminals and to ensure that every worker is safe from discrimination, hate, and bigotry." The company says they will be offering a $5,000 reward to anyone who provides information that leads to individuals involved in acts of racism. This is just the latest disturbing discovery at the Michael Garron Hospital construction site. Since June, 4 nooses have also been found there. Well, it's a record no one wanted to see. Ontario reporting 732 new cases of COVID-19 today and a ballooning backlog in tests for the disease. In response, the Premier announcing new measures to get a handle on the situation. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley takes us through them.
The buzz from Queen's Park this morning had Premier Doug Ford making a major announcement at his daily briefing on COVID-19. Flanked by more advisors than usual, Ford begins with a somber tone.
As Premier, it's my duty to protect the people.
Yet the new measures Ford announces prove far less sweeping than what many public health experts are demanding. Indoor mask rules, already in place in much of the province, are extended to all of Ontario. Toronto and other hotspots get a few extra restrictions.
Restaurants, bars, and nightclubs in Ottawa and Peel must limit their capacity to 100 customers or less.
But that's actually higher than the restaurant capacity limit already imposed in Toronto. This comes as Ontario surpasses its single-day record for new cases of COVID-19, and the 7-day average keeps soaring upward. Social contact is considered a big driver of the surge in infections. The province is asking people to pare that back. But does it mean don't go see your folks at Thanksgiving? The tag team answer is far from clear.
I'll pass that over to the Minister of Health. What we're saying is keep the social circles tight.
We want people to keep their gatherings small, but I think I'll refer this to Dr. Heyer or Dr. Williams.
I think everybody has to think carefully about where they're going to and what they're doing and assess the potential risk, assess the potential chance for transmission.
We want to say smaller. You have to refocus back down because we said 10, but people with 10, another 10 and 20, 30, and they just went open on that, and we have a problem now.
The Premier translates.
I think what he's saying is just keep your circles tight now. That's what I think he's getting at.
Here's what the government's news release says. Have close contact only with the people in your household. With everyone else, keep 2 meters away. The government was considering shifting Ontario to a new color-coded system for the risk from COVID-19. Regions would be declared as red zones or orange, yellow, or green with restrictions to match. But Premier Ford shot down the idea, saying it would be too confusing. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
In Toronto, some officials and medical experts say the province's new restrictions don't go nearly far enough. The city alone has 323 new cases today, close to half of all new cases in Ontario. Lauren Pelly has more on what the city is calling for.
We need to take this pause now to slam the brakes on the spread of COVID-19. That was the blunt message today from city officials.
Without quick action to implement further public health measures, there is an acute risk that the virus will continue to spread widely.
And it's already moving fast. Between September 20th and 26th, there were 45 active community outbreaks in Toronto. Close to half were in restaurants, bars, and entertainment venues, leaving thousands of residents potentially exposed.
The risk of someone walking into one of those establishments pre-symptomatic from COVID is going up every day.
With case counts rising, people now wait hours to get tested. Data from Toronto Public Health shows more than 60% of those tests are taking more than 2 days to get processed, while only 37% of newly reported cases are being reached by contact tracers within the target of 24 hours.
These numbers won't reverse on their own.
Dr. Eileen Davila's new recommendations include shuttering indoor dining and indoor fitness for the next 4 weeks.
I'm also recommending, as much as possible, that individuals only consider leaving their homes for essential activities.
The head of the Ontario Hospital Association is supporting her push for stricter public health measures, saying without those in place, Toronto will soon see an acceleration of infections and higher numbers of hospitalizations, ICU admissions, and deaths.
It's very easy to project what is going to happen if we don't change. And what we need to change is reducing contacts. And the way we do that is by starting to restrict non-essential activities.
So will provincial officials heed Toronto's calls? Like much of today's announcement, the answer wasn't quite clear.
We asked for evidence and data on that. We'll get that. But that's what she would like for us to consider as far as for her jurisdiction, the City of Toronto.
Now, city officials also sent these recommendations to the province in a letter, which they said they did receive at their midday press conference. We likely won't know until around next week if any more new restrictions are in the works, but Dr. Davila said she's hoping to hear an answer back from the province sooner rather than later. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
And the CN Tower announcing late this afternoon they are shutting down their operations starting tomorrow, adding they are doing it to, quote, do our part to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and hopefully help to flatten the curve. Ontario's labs processed just over 40,000 test samples for the virus yesterday. But what's been of increasing concern lately is the backlog. Here's where we stand tonight. There are more than 90,000 tests waiting to be completed in Ontario. That's the most since the outbreak began. And once again today, the Premier asked people not to get a test if they don't have symptoms. He also announced significant changes to the process of getting a COVID-19 test. Starting Sunday, assessment centres will stop accepting people for walk-in testing. And as of Tuesday morning, testing will be done by appointment only. This is video of U.S. President Donald Trump boarding a helicopter on the White House lawn late this afternoon on his way to the Walter Reed Medical Center. Trump revealed on Twitter last night that both he and the First Lady have been diagnosed with COVID-19. He wore a mask as he walked to the helicopter. The White House said the visit to Walter Reed will be for a few days and that it is precautionary. The president is apparently feeling fatigued, but in good spirits. School trips were among the many things canceled because of the pandemic. Months later, families across Canada are still fighting to get refunds for them. One Toronto school was forced to cancel a spring trip to Europe for grade 11 and 12 music students. They say it's been a frustrating fight with the insurance and tour companies passing the buck to each other. Angelina King has more.
Charlie Hummel has been playing the tuba for 5 years, and for 3 years he worked at a cafe, saving money to pay for part of a school trip focused on music.
And it was going to be cool because we were going to learn about the history of Western music and go to different places around Austria and Germany.
Hummel, who since graduated, was disappointed but not too worried when it was canceled. They bought insurance, but...
And they just said, I'm sorry, we denied it.
Before that, EF Tours offered two options, get a voucher or file an insurance claim. They chose the latter, but the insurance company wouldn't reimburse them because they were offered a voucher.
And then EF Tours was not offering any kind of credit of any type anymore. And so we're left, having paid $4,000 to EF Tours and $100 to the insurance company, and a pandemic canceled the trip, and there's nothing. We get absolutely nothing.
A lot of people are out a lot of money.
Rochelle Strauss's son was also supposed to be on the trip. They too chose the insurance claim, but eventually signed up for a voucher, which she says is useless.
The only reason we did this trip was because it was an amazing opportunity to travel with his classmates. It was a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
In a statement, EF Tour says it's offering a flexible cancellation policy and that the vouchers could potentially be transferred to someone else and are good for a variety of EF divisions, including college and adult travel.
Well, it's been terribly busy.
Ontario's travel regulator has fielded hundreds of general complaints and has some advice for booking future trips. Get a travel agent.
Because by law, travel counselors are required to advise you of what travel documentation is required to enter the country. And so if there's additional special COVID requirements, they would be up to speed on that.
She also says to book tours with companies located in Ontario, since TICO regulates them and can help if there are problems, and get insurance. Both Strauss and Humphreys use the insurance company recommended by the TDSB, Old Republic. Those who used EF Tours insurance were reimbursed. The TDSB says it's been asking EF Tours and Old Republic to refund the families, but with no luck. Old Republic didn't respond to previous interview requests from CBC News about denying claims to other families in similar situations, but with a different tour company and in a different province. CBC Toronto reached out to the company again today, but also didn't hear back. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Police have identified the man killed in yesterday's shooting near Jane and Lawrence as 27-year-old Hamid Zakari of Toronto. Officers responded to calls for a shooting just after 9 a.m. They say Zakari was standing outside a vehicle, putting a baby into the rear seat when suspects drove by and shot him. He died at the scene. Police believe the suspects were waiting in the area for some time for Zakari to come out of his home. Officers have canvassed the neighborhood and gathered surveillance video. They are asking anyone with more information to come forward. A man is dead after a fire at a home in Scarborough this morning.
On arrival, the crews did find fire in the basement. The fire was quickly knocked down and extinguished. Unfortunately, at the time, they also found the remains of one deceased occupant.
The fire happened at a residence on Cleta Drive near St. Clair and Kennedy at around 7 a.m. A woman in the home was able to escape. She was taken to hospital. Toronto police and the fire marshal will be investigating whether there's any criminality involved in the incident. Officers say there is no threat to public safety. And a man in his 20s has died after being hit by a truck this afternoon. It happened in a gas station parking lot near Keele and Shepherd at about 2:30. The man was pinned under the vehicle and pronounced dead at the scene. Toronto police say the Ministry of Labour will lead the investigation as the incident happened on private property and is considered a workplace injury. 30 new crossing guards are now stationed at intersections across the city to battle the rising number of pedestrian injuries and fatalities on Toronto streets. Natalie Collada has more on whether the change is making a difference.
I think it's the helping put back into the community. It's the social aspect as well. You get to know the kids.
They're just some of the reasons Donald Nybor loves his new part-time job. The Toronto man started working as a crossing guard 3 weeks ago.
A lot of us right now are really distracted, probably more distracted than ever before for obvious reasons. To be able to, especially kids, to be able to help kids get across the street safely, to know that there's someone there for them to help them cross the street. I think people appreciate that.
Toronto police data shows the number of pedestrian injuries and deaths in the city dropped in 2014, but have been rising since. The city took over the crossing guard job from police last year. The extra guards are an effort to combat those numbers, part of the city's Vision Zero plan to reduce and eventually eliminate pedestrian injuries and death.
School crossing guards basically help to raise, I should say, the level of conspicuity of the crossings, and we really want to raise awareness to motorists to remind them that that as kids and parents are back to school, that there's a need for a greater level of awareness as you're driving around the streets.
The city has more than 700 crossing guards on their roster, making it the largest effort in Canada, and according to Brown, making a difference.
We are starting to see the numbers coming down. This year in particular, unfortunately, with COVID-19, the numbers are far lower than typical. But at the same extent, there's a lot of measures that have been put into play that we're kind of anticipating even in the coming year, that we're not going to see the numbers sort of climbing the way they were before in the past.
The extra guards this fall are just a start. The city is looking into another 97 locations to post guards. Those reviews are expected to start this month. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
A Mississauga couple was using this parking lot to feed the needy during the COVID-19 pandemic, but the parking lot has been taken over and shut down by the province. Now that couple is looking for somewhere else to set up their food table, and they're looking to the city of Mississauga for help. I'm Greg Ross. We'll have details coming up.
Well, we knew it was coming, and it's here tonight. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. We'll take a look at your frost advisories. Yes, frost, coming up after the break.
Another cool night with some cloudy skies out there. Let's see how the weather is shaping up for the weekend with Colette. Hi, Colette.
Thanks, Marivelle. Well, we knew it was coming, and now it has arrived. This cooler air has moved in, and because of that, we are going to see areas of frost developing tonight, and I'll show you exactly where we have the advisories. So of the weekend, Saturday looking like the better day. You know, we have so many areas with just beautiful foliage with the leaves changing over. I say the better day, there's still going to be some lake effect showers, but of the two, Saturday and Sunday, it will be the drier day because we do have the return of some widespread showers and wet weather as we go into the second half of the weekend. So with the clearer skies, I know not clear yet in all areas, but we have the clearing trend overnight tonight. So clearing skies, we are going to see lots of areas where we get the frost development. And I know in some cases it's just too late, it's time to say goodbye, but there are cases where you can still protect your vegetation or your flowers and your plants, and you want to still do that for a little while longer. So this is the heads up to do that. But all the areas that you're seeing here in blue, we're talking closer to the lake shore. Yeah, you're still protected a little bit by the lake. That gives you some extra heat, so doing okay where you're likely not going to see the frost, but elsewhere might be patchy in nature in some cases, but it's still going to be developing. Some of the daytime, these are the unofficial highs, but essentially at about 3 o'clock, what we were looking at with our temperatures. So in most cases, running well below seasonal daytime highs with those numbers. Yeah, because that cool air was moving in. You already had the cool night last night in southwestern Ontario. Well, that gets even chillier tonight, and then it spreads eastward. I said some of the lake effects, some of the rain activity still there into Saturday, so it's not dry everywhere, and some cloud cover, but lots of cases where you're going to get some sunshine mixing in too. So that's why for outdoor activities where you can be outdoors, or even if you're going to just take a drive in your car to be a little bit safer in terms of things, just to take in the fall colors. Yeah, Saturday looking better on the roads, and then watch what happens as we go into Sunday and that next system approaches. Things kind of blow up a little bit in terms of the wet conditions, so we'll get some slicker roadways there, and that's why it's looking not like the best day of the two for this weekend. So tonight, this is what I mean, like last night, Windsor, you went down to 5. Well, tonight I'm taking you down to 3 degrees for your overnight low. Tomorrow afternoon, still running on the chilly side, but it's not going to be a bad day by any means. In fact, quite a nice day for you on Saturday. Overnight tonight, the readings looking like this, cooler towards Markham, then of course closer to the lakeshore. And tomorrow afternoon, some chilly numbers, but still a nice Saturday. And in terms of a rebound, if you're checking the numbers here, looking for that with those temperatures, it is going to be coming, and that's coming towards the beginning of next week, where, of course, after the weekend, we're going to see those numbers coming back up again.
Okay, we'll be here for Monday, and thanks, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
I'm Ismaila Alpha, host of Metro Morning. Coming up on Monday's program, could the province be doing more to help the economy recover during the pandemic? We'll ask Ontario's Minister of Finance, Rod Phillips, when he joins me Monday for Metro Morning. You should join us too, weekdays from 5:30 till 8:30 on CBC Radio 1.
Well, a bright side to the pandemic is the kindness being shown to those in need. And that includes a couple in Mississauga who started a free food table in a parking lot. Recently, though, they showed up to find the lot fenced off and their table removed. But as Greg Ross explains, there is still a chance they can bring the food table back.
Ask them what the combination is.
On the outside looking in, this was once the space where Bill Graham and his wife Shirley set up a makeshift food bank.
It was just a 6-foot table. We'd fill it with water on one end, and we'd put food in the center.
Back in March, at the very beginning of the pandemic, Bill and Shirley started providing food for needy people in this vacant parking lot near Huron, Ontario and Dundas in Mississauga.
When the COVID hit, we saw people, they were on the street, they couldn't go in a restaurant, there was no washroom, there was nothing. So we said, okay, all we can do is put the food outside.
At the beginning, we took it out of our savings or out of our house, and other people donated, friends.
More and more people started donating food and helping to prepare it. Eventually, they started restocking the table 3 times a day.
We'd fill it in the morning, usually around 7 or 8, then we'd fill it again at noon, then in the evening.
Without warning, Bill and Shirley say they showed up here to the parking lot a couple of weeks ago to find this fence surrounding it and their table pushed to the sidewalk.
We didn't have any idea that there was this wonderful gesture going on this property.
Anne-Marie Aikens with Metrolink says they recently purchased the property to use it as storage space during construction of the Huron, Ontario LRT. She said it was fenced off for safety reasons, but now that they know what was happening there, they want to look into options to help Bill and Shirley continue their work. And she told Bill during our interview.
But we have a community relations office right around you, and I've let them know, and they'd like you to call them.
It's a welcome surprise, and it's very much appreciated, and I'm very happy to see Metrolinks going in that direction.
Metrolinks will look at options to possibly provide some space for Bill and Shirley in that parking lot, or to help them find another space to continue their work.
And we need more of that, especially at this time.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Mississauga.
Couldn't agree with Bill more. And that's our show for you tonight and for the week. We will see you back here on Monday at 6 and 11. Have a great and safe weekend, everyone.